Welcome to Sorceress Crafts channel. I'm Spigen, or the Sorceress. I learned to knit in the previous century, and since then I have dabbled in lots of other fiber crafts, and one of my overarching goals for my crafts is to create a wardrobe for myself that I have mostly crafted myself. That means I make a lot of wearable clothes like sweaters, cardigans, but also accessories. And y'all keep asking me to see what I'm making or what I have done. So I thought I would try out an idea for my channel. On the first week of every month, I would go through everything I have finished crafting in the previous month, and I would talk about the patterns and about the materials that I used, what are my thoughts, and would I recommend them to you. I hope this will be like a really cozy chat. I'm in my crafting corner, I have my tea, I hope you have some nice beverage for yourself. Let's talk about knitting, and I have several questions that I hope you might be able to answer to me. At the start of September, I got the first whiff of autumn in the air, and I immediately needed to cast on something that like screams cozy, witchy, autumny. And because this pattern had been on my to knit list for quite a while now, I immediately knew that I want to go with this one. I ordered yarn, started immediately. So this is Conspiracy of Ravens sweater by Klara Cecilia. I used drops Cotton Merino for this sweater. I used the color base Rust and Black. This was a fairly quick project to make. It took me 29 hours to knit, and since I've finished it, I've worn it so much and I have so many plans to wear it again. This definitely has a high potential of becoming one of my all-time favorite sweaters, or like the favorite sweater of this year, or one of the favorite sweaters of the year. Let's see, but definitely this is something that I just want to live in. It feels so comfy and I'm so happy with this project. Over the moon for having done this. So Conspiracy of Ravens is a round yoke sweater. It's fully size inclusive. Technically it calls for a sport weight yarn. I use the DK weight because it's knit at 20 stitch gauge, and generally I just like my sweaters to be a bit denser. I don't always like to knit at a looser gauge, especially when I'm doing color work, so I decided to go for a DK weight, and it worked out marvelously. This pattern recommends 5 to 10 centimeters of positive ease, which is already something that I like. But then when I was swatching, I realized that with this yarn I can't actually get the gauge in a way that I would like. So I knit this at a 21 stitch gauge, but because I know that I really like fitted sweaters, I actually didn't change anything about the sizing. I just knit my size in a slightly denser gauge, and it worked out marvelously. It is now a very fitted sweater for me, and that's how I like to wear my sweaters, especially something that I will wear daily, that I want to move around a lot. The pattern itself is really well written. It is fairly bare bones. There is not much of hand holding or anything. You get all of the math done for you. You get few suggestions how to do some of the techniques, and you get 2 different charts for different sizes, and that's all you get. And for me, that is usually the pattern format that I prefer, and I feel like there is nothing missing out of the pattern. The way pattern is written, it starts with color, and the color is quite high. I decided that I want to add color last because I really don't like this type of color be so high on my neck. So I already knew that I want to do it last, and only then decide how big I really want it to be. And that worked out very nicely. This is fairly good on me. And few other modifications that I did, I added quite a severe waist shaping, so this would fit me throughout. And I added corrugated rib on my sleeves. I have a tutorial for that on my channel on how I did that. I just always like to add little details on the sleeves, because sleeves are the thing that I will see the most while I'm wearing the sweater, and I like to look at the pretty things that I've made. Honestly, the only weird thing about this pattern is the gauge. This pattern calls for an equal gauge both for stitches and for the rows, so it's 20 stitches and 20 rows per 10 centimeters, and I don't think that would be achievable for most knitters, because normally when we knit, our stitches are higher, so they aren't perfectly square, they are a bit higher and narrow. So normally you would see that the row gauge is higher than the stitch gauge. And honestly, I would be very curious to see how the designer knits to achieve that row gauge for this stitch gauge. It's definitely not achievable for me, and I don't think I know any knitter who could achieve that. For this pattern, it's not a big deal because you really don't care that much about the row gauge. You finish the color work yoke, and then you see if you already want to split for the sleeves or do you want to add a bit more. And because most people will have more rows per 10 centimeters than the pattern calls for, you don't run into the risk of having like a low sagging yoke. You will almost definitely end up yoke a bit higher than you want to split for the sleeves, and then you can just continue knitting pure stockinette. It's no issue at all. I like to split for sleeves very high up so that the sweater is almost running in my armpit, but not really. It just allows for a very nice free hand movement without the sweater riding up too much. So I needed to add only very few rows after the colorwork yoke, and I added them by doing the compound raglan. I didn't continue doing the circular yoke increases or just pure stockinette, and that is also a great way how to make a round yoke sweater fit you better, is adding few raglan increases after the yoke. So I added the raglan increases, and then in the armpit I cast on few stitches less to accommodate for the fact that I had done more raglan increases. I really like how the little star details play together with the ravens. I really adore the design. I think it's just so eye-catching. Whenever I look at myself in the mirror, I keep admiring this sweater. And I have worn it so much that it has kind of taken over my Instagram, and this is definitely one of the sweaters that I get most questions about. People keep asking me what is the pattern, and I'm so happy for that. I think that this pattern and the designer herself deserves way more attention than she is getting, because her designs are the perfect autumny, witchy vibes, and they are just so interesting to knit. I think I would love to make another sweater from this pattern, but there are a few things that I would change for that one. First of all, I would choose a yarn that has a bit less stitch definition. Well, it's very nice to have crisp stitches. I think that this design would really shine with something that's kind of blends together slightly. So I don't mean in the sense that the design would get lost. I just mean in the sense that like you wouldn't be able to see every single stitch. I would also definitely add more short rows. I keep feeling that I want the back to be a bit higher and the front to be slightly lower. While this neckline works for me and it's comfortable to wear, I keep noticing how it hits my collarbones, and I don't want to keep noticing the color of my sweater. So that is something that I would change for the next time. Other than that, I think this is a great pattern. It's well written. There isn't really that much need to make any changes to it, and it could easily be knit just the way it's written. The pattern itself also isn't too hard, so I feel like it might be appropriate for like adventurous colorwork beginner. I wouldn't suggest this as your first sweater because every row is completely different. You really need to pay attention to what you're doing, and you will need to catch a lot of floats. So I don't think this is where you should start, but it's also not too difficult. And as I said, for me, this was a very fast knit. I was honestly almost surprised at how quickly it went, but like the gauge is a bit bigger, that's nice. And the colorwork design is laid out very logically. When you are knitting, you can kind of see where it wants to go, so it's very easy to follow it. Oh, and another change that I might make for this sweater, if I decide to knit it again, I might do the stars completely randomly. Now they repeat exactly for each section, but I think this sweater might look really cool if the stars were like random around the birds. I think that would be a really interesting idea. It just means that it would be slightly harder to follow the chart, and because this time I really wanted to knit something that's fast and I don't have to think about it, I can just vibe with it, so I decided to mostly stick to the chart. I actually didn't fully, there are already some of the stars that are like made randomly just by me, but if I was to redo this, I think I would go for like a completely random placement, and I am still considering that it might look great if I embroidered some of the stars on the body, so it isn't that the colorwork ends completely just here, but that there will be like sprinkled stars all over the sweater. I think that would be like a really cool look. The yarn I used for this sweater is Drops Cotton Merino. It's 50% cotton and 50% superwash merino. I had not worked with this yarn before this sweater, and I had read some very conflicting reviews. Some of the reviews were just absolutely glowing, that the yarn wears really well and that like it's really durable and like really nice. Others were really dissatisfied with it, and others were seeing like lots of pilling and saying that the finished product really stretches out after blocking. My experience was somewhere in the middle with this yarn. It certainly feels like any drops superwash yarn feels, so it feels very smooth and kind of heavily coated. Drops yarns tend to be on that more heavily coated end of the spectrum of superwash yarns as opposed to like only lightly coated, and that's up to you to decide if that's something that you like. It's definitely good for people with sensitive skin like me. Like this sweater I can easily wear next to skin, no issues at all. I think in one of my videos I have worn it over just the bra because it was too hot in here to actually wear it. But for such a smooth yarn, there is like a little bit of fuzz, and I have already started seeing some of pilling, which is a bit sad because I've only had this sweater for a month. And yeah, sure, I've worn this a lot, but I would have hoped that the yarn will wear a bit better than it actually wears. I'm not fully casting any judgment about the wearability of this, because sometimes with yarns like this, it happens that like the first layer of fluff kind of wears off, and then afterwards you're really good that it doesn't keep pilling afterwards. I am mildly hoping that this might be the case, because other than that, this yarn is just so pleasant to wear. It doesn't overheat me, but it keeps me warm enough, so it's really breathable, really nice. I've worn it to several events where I'm sitting inside, where I know that usually I'm overheating in sweaters, but this sweater was completely fine. I've also gone out to play disc golf in this, and it was just marvelous. It keeps me warm enough for the time that I'm standing around and waiting, but it doesn't overheat me when I'm actually moving around and doing active stuff. So in that regard, I really, really love this yarn. As for the stretching out after blocking, I really didn't notice it. This definitely didn't behave like some of the superwash yarns where it just like expands almost endlessly. But then again, I tend to knit at a very tight gauge, and that also impacts how much your superwash yarn will stretch out after it has come in contact with water, after you have blocked it or washed it. So for me, superwash yarns in general tend not to expand as much as for other people, because, well, I don't knit at a loose gauge, and that means that the yarn simply doesn't have anywhere to go. It just sticks together more. This yarn is not too splitty. It was very pleasant to knit with it, but that being said, this is a fairly slippery yarn, and I don't think I will ever use it again for any color work, because I needed to pay a lot of attention to my tension, to my stitches, and basically any tension mistake is really, really visible. This yarn has great stitch definition. You will be able to see literally every single stitch that you make, which can be a bonus or it can be a negative thing, depends. For a round yoke, I think I would generally prefer to have yarns with less stitch definition, because in round yokes I don't really always like that I can see literally every single increase. And I think I just generally like the look of yarns that are blending together a bit more. But then again, it's a bit hard to find yarns that doesn't have like a high stitch definition, but are also gentle on sensitive skin. So in general, I just tend to lean more towards the yarns that I can wear and care slightly less about how they look. On my itchiness scale from 0 to 10, where 0 would be like touching a cloud and 10 would be like smashing your face in a hedgehog, this yarn is a complete 0. It's so smooth, it's so soft, and unless you have a specific sensitivity to the fibers used here, you will absolutely be able to wear this next to skin. I've done it a lot, as I already said. It also touches my neck, and there is just zero itchiness in this. So I would highly suggest this yarn for people with sensitive skin. As for wearability, I think I'll make a short update video, I don't know, in half a year, and then we'll see like what this feels like. For now, I still have very high hopes for this yarn, and I have enough left over that I will definitely be making yet another garment from this yarn. I'm thinking something striped, and I have said this before and I will keep saying it. Merino and cotton blends are just absolutely divine for people with sensitive skin, and just honestly in general, they are pleasant to knit with, they are pleasant to wear, they don't overheat you, but they also keep you warm. It's just an overall marvelous fiber combo. So while I can't fully yet vouch for this yarn, I think it will be a very, very good choice, and I think I might come back to this yarn for other projects too. Next up, we have a Cosy Lopi sweater by Melody Hoffmann. I did a test knit for this, and technically I didn't finish it in September. I finished it already in July, but because this pattern came out in September, I decided to include this in this video. So this is a pattern that calls for a bulky weight yarn. It's knit at a very loose gauge. It's 9 stitches per 10 centimeters. It can be knit either flat or on the round. It has a European shoulder construction, slightly dropped sleeves. It's meant to be worn cropped. It calls for 0 to 5 centimeter positive ease, which is something that I love. I'm so tired of all of the oversized sweater patterns. I'm sorry. I just want to see more fitted sweaters, please. And that is one of the reasons why I signed up for this test knit, because I think sweaters like these deserve more attention. The sweater has like very mild balloon sleeves. It doesn't have any cuff. You just end it with a garter stitch. It's knit all over in garter stitch, so it's a very easy, fast knit. It took me 13 hours to make. It was just mind-blowingly fast. Even with accounting for the fact that it's a bulky weight yarn, I'm knitting at a huge gauge, I'm knitting one of the smaller sizes, I never expected that it will go just so lightningly fast. I decided to knit this sweater flat and then seam it together, mostly because seams add a lot of stability to any garment, and garter stitch isn't really all that stable. It's prone to stretching and moving around, so I wanted the extra stability. And on top of that, I used yarn from my stash, so I knit this in BBB Alpaka 70, that's a name, and this yarn on itself is also like very drapey, it's not too stable, and those were the main reasons why I wanted to knit this flat. But if you want, you can also knit it on round, and even if you knit it on flat, you don't really need to knit 4 separate pieces and then seam them together. You pick up stitches along the shoulder edge and along the arm sides, and you basically just knit like a big cross, and then you just seam together the sleeves and the body. I mostly knit the sweater as is written in the pattern. It has 0 positive ease for me on the bust. I slightly shortened the collar rib, and I left the side rib open, so it has this little slit, and that allowed me to knit a sweater that really won't ride up anywhere. It always will cover my back even if I have my arms lifted up, because it has that little bit of extra length while still being cropped. And because my body is very curvy, basically my hips just go horizontally out of my waistline, I can't really add extra lengths to my cropped sweaters unless I do something about it. So I would either need to add increases or I need to add slits, and I just feel like slits for a sweater like this looks nicer. The design itself is really easy and generally speaking would be friendly to beginners. However, this is yet another really bare bones pattern. It won't really tell you how to do several techniques. It won't really hold your hand. So if you want to knit this as a beginner, you will probably need to look up several things as you go. But if you're a bit more experienced knitter, this pattern will create absolutely 0 issues. It's very clear, it's very well written. It gives you all of the information that you need for knitting it. And it's a very nice, mindless project that you can just sit down and zoom through it without any issues. I really like that it has a bit deeper neckline, so that means that the sweater isn't riding up in my neck and disturbing me. That's a thing that I really appreciate. And generally speaking, this will very likely be one of the sweaters that I wear while I'm crafting or just being cozy at home. This isn't really an outdoorsy sweater for me. First of all, the yarn isn't all that durable, so I wouldn't really want to wear a bag over it. But second, because the gauge is so loose and it's a garter stitch, wind blows right through it. So even though this is a bulky weight alpaca sweater, it isn't really all that warm. My intention truly was to knit a cozy sweater that I can fully wear indoors without overheating, and I think I fully achieved that, and I'm very happy with this result. I'm expecting to get a lot of wear out of this because it's a nice breathable sweater and I just feel really nice in it. I really like wearing it. I really like how it feels on me. The yarn that I used for this sweater is BBB Alpaka 70. It's a bulky weight yarn. It's 70% alpaca, it's 20% wool, and 10% synthetic materials. It's a single ply yarn, so that means it's not spun, and it has like very nice hollow, it has very nice like fluff around it. But it also means that this is not the most durable yarn. In a sweater like this, where I have knitted with a very loose gauge, those stitches are kind of standing out alone, it means that this sweater will wear out a bit more quickly than normally, because, well, soft single ply yarn isn't really the most durable stuff out there. But I have also knit a winter hood for my girlfriend out of this yarn, and there I used like a super tight gauge to the point where like it almost feels stiff, because that's what she wanted. And there, this yarn wears really well. There is almost no pilling and there's absolutely no issue. So if you want to knit with a yarn like this, you will really need to pay attention to your gauge, and that will highly impact how wearable your sweater is. I have only worn this sweater for a very little time, but I can already see a little bit of pilling, and I can see some of the stitches. But I can already see a little bit of pilling, and in the places where the sweater touches itself more, so in the underarms, I can already see how it's a bit felting together a little bit. It's completely normal. I expected that. I knew that it will happen. And while generally I do care about making clothes that will last me for a very long time, I don't want to fall for the thing where like everything I have to craft is like an heirloom material, because I feel like that's extremely limiting. Sometimes I just want to craft a very cozy single ply bulky weight yarn sweater, and I am completely fine with the fact that this sweater will wear out more quickly than others, because I know that this will give me a lot of comfort and it's really pleasant to wear. This yarn is just so soft, and it's absolutely wearable next to skin or over like a light t-shirt. Even though I have really sensitive skin, this is causing me no issues. And I'm just really impressed with this yarn. Also, I think it's the cheapest natural material yarn that's available for me. I sometimes visit this really shady yarn shop that sells like all sorts of very interesting yarns, and I can buy this yarn for €2 per 50 grams. I still don't understand how have they achieved that price. I think online I've seen this yarn going for a bit higher price, but even the online prices aren't really high. I think it's just the thing of like, I don't know, it's just the European yarns. They tend not to be all that expensive. This color is also just absolutely marvelous. It's a true dark turquoise color. It has like a lot of depth, and if you look at it closer, you can see several colors like marling together there. I am really sad the camera usually can't pick up this color. It can't like depict the depth that it actually has in real life, because camera always struggles with turquoise colors. That's just how it is. But in real life, this is just such a deep, nice, autumny, almost like earthy color. Even though I wouldn't usually say that turquoise is like an earthy color, I feel like this one is. And this just feels like the absolutely perfect yarn for autumn or winter. On the itchiness scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is like touching a cloud and 10 is like smashing your face in a hedgehog, I would give this around 1, maybe 2 at worst days, but usually I think this is at 1. Normally I can really wear it next to skin or over like a t-shirt, but if I'm already bothered or if I'm already overstimulated, then I might start feeling this yarn a bit more, and I don't know, maybe not be able to wear it if I'm like really overheated or like in a super bad mood or like having like an extremely bad day. But normally in my everyday life, this is a very wearable yarn for me, and I'm truly not upset about the fact that it will wear out a bit more quickly than other yarns. That's just how this yarn is, and it has its use in my life, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Next up, we have a project where I really love the end result, but I am so mad at the designer and the pattern. It kinda is mildly ruining the project for me. I won't tell you what is this pattern because the pattern is completely wrongly size graded. It's one of those stupid cases where designer has taken her own size and then completely linearly graded it down and up to meet the criteria for the size inclusive pattern. And so yeah, technically the bust measurement is like fully size inclusive for this pattern, but it means nothing if it's wrongly size graded because it won't fit those sizes properly. If you were to knit this at a larger size, your neck opening would be like weirdly big and basically the yoke would end somewhere, I don't know, at your elbows or whatever. Like at the largest size, the yoke depth is 37 centimeters, which is a measurement that makes zero sense. Sadly, I only discovered that when I was about halfway through my project, so I decided to keep going with it because I don't want to give up my project simply because someone else has done a bad job at the thing that they're asking money for. But I am so mad at the pattern. But also, I don't want to tell you what pattern it is. And I kindly ask you not to go out looking for the pattern, and please don't go on the pattern's Ravelry page and don't leave comments, because views on Ravelry are a really valuable currency, and if you keep paying attention to that pattern, the pattern will get out to more people, and then people who don't really pay attention to the things they are buying will fall for that pattern. And also, I just don't want to stir any drama or anything. I left a comment on the pattern and in my project description that this pattern is not correctly size graded, so other people don't fall for it. I just don't want any more drama around it because I don't think that's valuable and it won't really help anyone. And it will probably make things worse for other people, so let's just not. Anyway, this will be a very nice layering piece for me. It's a cropped raglan cardigan knit in a DK weight yarn. I used Fibra Natura Papyrus yarn, which is 80% cotton and 20% silk, so this will be amazing for summer or for wearing to events indoors when I know that the place will be overheated, as it tends to happen where I live. And also, especially in the winter, I just keep noticing that I actually don't want to wear all of the warmest sweaters. In winter, I way more often reach for a light layering garment. I don't really need all of those like super warm wool sweaters, because if I'm going outside, I'm moving around and then I'm already warm enough on my own. I don't need like a super thick layer. And if I'm spending time indoors, well, indoors tend to be overheated, regardless if it's like a personal space or like an event space or like a bar. I will usually be hot. So this cotton jacket will actually be perfect for winter too. It's knit in all over broken rib, so it has a very nice texture. And when I finished knitting this, I wanted to wear it so badly that I wore it to my D&D night without even adding the buttons. And in fact, I still haven't done that, because I need to finish this video while I still have some light. I will add the buttons tonight. But since I usually anyway wear cardigans open, I very rarely button them up. It's honestly not a problem for me. I am kind of considering that I might want to knit some cardigans that are not meant to button up at all, and there I might make some really interesting design choices. I don't know. That's a thought for future. This cardigan took me 33 hours to knit, and it kind of feels weird that it took me slightly longer than my Raven sweater, but it also makes sense because this is a black yarn, and while I don't really have problems with knitting with black yarn, you just need really good light with it. It takes slightly longer, but also the broken rib means that you need to pay attention a lot. So this wasn't like a fully mindless knit for me. Meanwhile, for the Raven sweater, once you're done with the yoke, you can just knit stockinette. There isn't anything there. and for this you need to pay attention. And also it has a double knit button band, and that always takes a lot of time. The whole cardigan together took me 33 hours, and the button band alone took me 4 hours to knit. It's completely worth it. I love double knit button band, and it's basically the thing that I'm adding to any of my cardigans, but it takes a lot of time. I will probably wear this cardigan a lot. I like how it feels on me. It fits me super nicely. But that is no thanks to the pattern, because once I realized that it's not correctly size graded, I kept checking all of the measurements and I did all of the math for myself, which makes me super mad, because if I'm paying for a pattern, I shouldn't have to do that. And I'm also mad at this pattern because now it means that every time when someone will ask me, oh, like, what, that's a nice cardigan, what is the pattern for it? I will have to explain to people that, like, oh, I won't tell you because someone didn't do their job properly. It just pisses me off. Like, if you are not capable of correctly size grading your design, pay someone. Pay a professional to do that. You don't size grade things linearly. You don't just add more raglan increases. You don't just add more yoke rows. You don't just add more stitches around the neck. That's not how size grading works, and I hate it. I hate that I fell for a pattern like that. But here are a few tips how you can avoid buying badly size graded patterns. And I'm just sad that I didn't use them for this pattern because I was just so excited and I didn't like fully check things. First thing you want to check in a pattern that you want to buy is the full sizes. Has the pattern given you more sizes than just the bust? Has the pattern told you like what will be the yoke lengths? What will be the sleeve lengths for the pattern? Ideally, I want to see a full size schematic before I buy a pattern. Sadly, it's not a too popular thing, and even really good designers whom I really trust don't do that, and I find it weird because that is an information that buyers should know before getting the pattern, but that kind of is the knitting pattern scene currently. I hope it will change eventually, that there are movements that way. But anyway, if you can see the sizes, please check every single size against your measurements and see if that sizing makes sense for your body. If there is no size chart, the next best thing is looking through the project pages and seeing how the pattern looks on different body types. And if you are only seeing few select sizes and only one body type, that is a huge red flag. And this is where I failed with this pattern, is that like I checked the project pages, but I didn't really pay attention to the fact that it's not fully tested in all of the sizes. In ideal world, every pattern would be test knit in every single size. And yeah, I understand it's sometimes really hard to get testers for the smallest or like the biggest sizes. So I do make some exceptions here and there. But generally speaking, that is something to strive for, and that is something that you as a buyer should check to protect yourself. And then, of course, another good way how to find properly size inclusive patterns is asking around for recommendations for designers who are trusted and who are well known for making designs that are fully size inclusive. And when you're checking out the project pages, especially pay attention to how the neckline and the yoke depth is fitting. So if you start seeing like really big loose necklines, that's a huge red flag. That's a dead giveaway that the pattern is not correctly size graded. The yarn that I used for this cardigan is Fibra Natura Papyrus. It's 80% cotton and 20% silk. It's a plied yarn, but it's plied in a very uneven way, so it already has lots of texture and character to it. And I love this yarn so much, and I'm heartbroken that I discovered this yarn after it's been discontinued. So I got this yarn from a shop that had it in the stock. I bought out all of the stock that they had, but I can't really get it anymore, and I'm sad because it's just a marvelous yarn to knit with. It's a DK weight yarn, it's breathable, it's not splitty, it looks gorgeous on texture, and looking at it, I'm fairly sure that it will wear really well. I don't expect a lot of pilling out of this yarn, but the minor silk content also gives it like a little bit of warmth, because silk is a really heat insulating material. So even though those are kind of summer fibers, this yarn also has like a little bit of warmth to it. And if you want to know more about fibers like that, I have a video where I talked about fibers that won't overheat you, and I covered both cotton and silk there, so that's something that you can check out. As much as I would love to get this specific yarn again, I don't think that will be very likely for me, but I have a glimmer of hope. When I discovered that this is discontinued, I started looking for a replacement yarn, because I realized like cotton and silk blend is something that I really want in my wardrobe. It works so well for me. And I have discovered that Hobby has a yarn that's called Friends Cotton Silk. It has the same exact fiber content, and it's also a DK weight yarn, and the color options look decent there, so I'm really hopeful for that yarn, but I haven't tried it out. And with hobby yarns, well, the experience varies quite a lot. I've had really good experiences and I've had very mehy experiences with it. If you have any experience with that particular yarn, please let me know what it's like. I am really hoping that it's a really good yarn, and I will probably order it and I will try it out. But please tell me that it's a good yarn, please. Because it's already heartbreaking that I have missed out on this yarn. It would be really sad to see that like the yarn that I was hoping to be a replacement for this isn't good. So anyway, if you have any experience with that yarn, please, I really want to hear your opinions. And now, very excitingly, we are moving into the accessories zone, and I can't even describe you how excited I am for this single shawl, because it represents so many good things. So I have finished this shawl very recently. I knit it with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, a single strand. I very vaguely used a Souvenir shawl pattern, but the pattern is kind of annoying and I didn't like it, so I ended up looking at the pictures of the pattern and knitting from those instead of looking at the pattern. So this has been a month of unlucky pattern experiences, but on the flip side, it has also been a month of like just the most amazing yarn experiences, so I can't fully complain. This is one of the yarns that I bought at the Gaza fundraising event. When I was buying that yarn, I already knew that I will be knitting a shawl out of it, and that I want to knit a shawl out of a single strand of mohair, because I wanted like an airy, lofty shawl. I chose this color that both me and my girlfriend could wear, because I really wasn't sure that I will be able to wear mohair, because so far never in my life have I been able to wear mohair, because mohair is just incredibly itchy to me. I already have sensitive skin, and mohair is just one of the worst offenders. I had already kind of given up on mohair, but then I kept hearing from you guys that people with sensitive skin really are able to wear Knitting for Olive mohair, so I had to try it out. And I can wear it. I'm just completely shocked about it. I can wear this shawl around my neck. It's not completely smooth. I can still feel like a little bit of the yarn, so I wouldn't risk wearing the shawl if I'm doing something active, because I know that if I start heating up, this will start being mildly itchy on me. But I can definitely wear it around my neck, and I don't think I can fully explain to you just how truly shocking that is. But also the shawl is just so nice to touch. I just want to burrow in it all of the time. And when my girlfriend saw this shawl finished, it was already clear that she's absolutely going to steal it from me. So this might be one of the shawl that we kind of try to split, and then we keep stealing it back and forth. It's also a great color that goes with literally anything, and it's just the coziest, comfiest thing. The yarn itself is really pleasant. It's a silk and mohair blend, as are most mohair yarns. Like when we talk about mohair yarns, we pretty automatically assume that it's silk and mohair together. And I will definitely find a project where I can use knitting for olive mohair held together with a different yarn, because I love mixing yarns together. It gives you so many color options, and it gives you so much depth and so much interest, that I have been really sad that I can't do that, and now I can, and now I'm really excited, and it has been one of the most exciting revelations to me in this month, that there exists a mohair yarn that I am able to wear. And not only wear like over like a long sleeve, no, I am able to wear it next to my skin. It's also just so nice to have like a really lightweight shawl. It has like almost a feathery feeling around me. It's just so nice. On the itchiness scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is like touching a cloud and 10 is like smashing your face into a hedgehog, I would give this yarn a 2. So that means that I'm still able to wear it next to my skin most of the time, but I would not go out and do like physical activities in it, because the moment when I start overheating in it, this yarn will start getting itchy on me. But it also means that it won't be itchy through like the lightest of the fabrics. So if I have any like long sleeve t-shirt underneath, I will have 0 problems, and I could also knit like a sweater with a crew neck or something, and I wouldn't have issues with this yarn. Obviously, your experience might be different with this yarn. Sensitivities towards the yarns are very individual. I'm just saying that if you are looking for a mohair yarn that's not itchy, knitting for olive might be a really good option to look into. The pattern that I've very vaguely used for this shawl is Souvenir shawl by Maria Samuelsson, and I say vaguely because I've very quickly discovered that the pattern is fairly annoying and I don't like following it, and that it's actually easier for me to understand what's happening in the shawl if I'm looking at the pictures of the shawl rather than following the designer's instructions. Not a great sign for a paid pattern. I wouldn't say that this is a bad pattern, but I also wouldn't recommend it to anyone, mostly because for such a simple shawl, it's a very convoluted pattern. The design itself looks beautiful, but the way designer describes you how to make it is just, you are jumping through way too many hoops and loops, and it shouldn't be done like that. There are easier ways how to design a pattern, because designing a shawl is a very different thing than designing a pattern that others will follow. My biggest gripes are that you have to follow both written and charted instructions, so I couldn't just knit it from the chart, and that's always super annoying for me. Give me a chart. It's not that hard, especially for a simple design like this. But also the charts themselves were made in such a weird way, like they looked, I don't know, when I looked at those charts, I had the impression that someone who has just discovered Canva and has never actually knit from charts has made those charts to look interesting, and that does not make them usable. Also, the pattern itself and especially the charts are not printer friendly, so you can only use it digitally, and just I really wanted to try out that specific pattern because I have been looking for shawl patterns that use only one skein of yarn, and that one has come up in like several pattern roundups, and the design looks really interesting and I was kind of excited about it. I won't be using it again. I don't recommend the pattern for others, but I'm also, again, I'm not saying that it's a bad pattern. I'm just saying that, well, it's not a well-written pattern. Next up, in the land of accessories, I have knit myself little fingerless mitts, and they are knit in a 2-2 rib. I didn't use a pattern, those are self-drafted. And it's just always so funny to see how 2-2 rib looks, because like those do not look like they will fit my hand, but they absolutely do, because like I did my gauge swatches and I did my math and I knew that they will fit. So yeah, 2-2 rib is just absolutely magical. I knit those because I realized that the weather is getting really cold outside, and me and my girlfriend have signed up for our first disc golf competition It's gonna be this Sunday. So today is October the 3rd. The competition is on October the 5th. I am so worried about the competition. I know that I'm nowhere near at the level where I have any business going to disc golf competitions, but it's very local. It's meant to support a new local course, and I would love to have a great disc golf course that's like 10-minute drive away from my house. So we are going to the competition. It's going to be kind of cold, so I knit myself mittens. Of course, I have already tested them. They are great. I used Novitanale yarn from my stash. The color is just amazing. It's just the burnt orange of my dreams. Of course, it's a sock yarn for fingerless mittens, and especially for mittens that I want to use for disc golf, so for all sorts of activities where I will be using my hands a lot. I always want to use sock yarn because it won't wear out so quickly, so I need something durable. I have this sock yarn in my stash. It's a sport weight sock yarn. It's a really nice, just general sock yarn. There isn't really all that much that I can say about it. It wears nicely, it knits nicely, it has a bunch of colors. It's a fairly popular yarn. Of course, it being a sock yarn also means that it's fairly itchy. Not like the most itchy yarn that I have ever touched, but it's fairly itchy because, well, it's a sock yarn. It's supposed to be rustic. That's what it is. But because I only will wear those over like the long sleeve t-shirt, I'm fine because on the palms they are not itchy. They would only be itchy around here, and there I have it covered. It's fine. This was yet another really quick project. The pair of those mittens took me 5.5 hours to knit, and I'm really happy with them. I will probably knit more of those. They are really comfy. I want them in all of the colors, and there's lots of use for fingerless mittens in my life. They are one of the accessories that I will use quite a lot, so I'm really happy about those. And last but not least, I have knit 2 headbands for the same disc golf competition because I realized that, oh, it's actually really getting cold. And I realized that I won't be able to go with my head uncovered, especially because we start very early in the morning. So I started by knitting myself a matching orange headband. I hold double drops Safran and drops Brushed Alpaca Silk because that's what I had in my stash. It was a very quick impromptu idea. I didn't use any specific pattern. I used my own notes from a thing that I have already knit for Rogue. If you've been following me for a while, you might remember that in the spring she was complaining to me that it's getting a bit too hot for a hat, but she still needs something to cover her ears, so I very quickly just went out and knit her a headband. I used my notes from that project and knit myself this one, and I also used her feedback. She said that like the first one was fine, but it could have been a bit shorter because it was getting a bit loose. Because when I knit it, I used the same negative ease calculations that I usually do for hats. So for hats, I use 10 to 15% negative ease, and I didn't account for the fact that like the hat already stands on your head very nicely. Headband needs to hold on only on this little bit. So it actually needs more negative ease. So I've been spending quite a lot of time figuring out like what would be the best negative ease for headbands, and specifically for this motif because I want to keep knitting this. It's almost addictive. Like one of those headbands takes me 1.5 hours or less, and they are just so fun to knit, and it's a really fun way how to use up scraps. And I got to play with holding yarns together, and I got this amazing color. This headband is a really good example on why I really enjoy holding yarns together, because those two yarns separately, well, they are pretty. They have nice colors. They are pretty enough that I have bought them. They were already in my stash. But when I put them together, they just look like this. Almost looks like golden, or like this is having like that kind of almost stone washed look. I really love how this turned out. But anyway, getting back to the conversation about the negative ease in headbands, I've been trying to figure out like what is the best, and currently I'm almost leaning towards 25% of negative ease for this specific motif, which kind of sounds a lot, but I've been testing it and it kind of seems to work. And I'm actually really curious on what you think. Like if you knit headbands, what is the negative ease that you usually go for. And by the way, I say that this headband is matching because it's matching to my Raven sweater. I have decided that for my first disc golf competition, I want to wear a birdie sweater. I am very funny, I know. If you don't know, in disc golf, the points are counted in the way that you have your par. So par is the expected number of throws that you need to get your disc into the basket. But the goal is always to play the course with as little throws as possible. So the winner is the person who has the least throws. And if you play a basket under par in disc golf, it's called a birdie, and everyone is always striving for birdies. So I have decided to go with a Raven sweater. I have zero chance of getting any birdies in this competition. I'm not going there to win anything. I'm just going there to have fun. And I hope that Raven sweater will attract some luck for me in the disc golf competition, and that everything will fly well. Also, when I finished this headband, I went to show it off to my girlfriend, and then of course she also needed the headband because we realized that no, it's gonna be cold this Sunday, so I knit her one too. I made hers a little bit wider, and now when I'm looking at this wider one, I'm realizing that, oh, I actually also would love to have a wider one, not this very skinny one. So probably until Sunday I will knit up another one for myself. I have enough of this yarn left to knit up like a wider one, and then I will have more options, which is always great. I used Drops Hair for my girlfriend's headband, and it was pretty fun to see that even though this one was wider, it basically took me the same amount of time as this one, because here I was holding two yarns together, and it takes a bit more time. And meanwhile, Drops Hair is a delightful yarn to knit with. Sure, it can get stuck on its own fluff and then it gets mildly fiddly, but for me that happens very rarely, and it's one of the yarns that I really, really like. And now for very quick yarn reviews of the things that I used for those headbands. For the orange one, as my base, I used Drops Safran. It's a sport weight yarn, 100% cotton, exactly what you would imagine cotton yarn to be. I love knitting with cotton, so I like it. If you don't like knitting with cotton, you probably won't. It's just your run-of-the-mill cotton yarn. There isn't really anything like specific that I can say about it, except that I like it. I held it double with Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk, and it's a lovely yarn. It's basically not itchy. I wouldn't say that like it's at the complete zero. I wouldn't say that it's like completely non-itchy. But I have knit a little bolero out of this yarn, and I have been able to wear it completely next to skin without any issues. But also, I now have in my stash not only this rust-colored Brushed Alpaca Silk, but also a navy blue one. And the navy blue one is definitely more itchy than the rust one. So I think that you need to be kind of careful with this yarn, see for yourself, and you also need to account for the fact that different colors will have different levels of itchiness for this yarn. That tends to happen. It makes sense because the process of dyeing yarn also impacts the structure of the yarn. It also impacts how itchy it will be, and we might have the cases like this where the orange yarn is less itchy than the blue yarn. That's just how chemistry works. That it is what it is. If you are sensitive to any Drops Alpaca yarns, you probably won't like this. If you're not, this is a very, very nice option. It's a fairly good substitute for mohair yarns, but you have to account for the fact that this yarn is way thicker than you would normally expect a mohair yarn be. It fills out any space so well that you can easily knit it up to a gauge of like worsted or Aran weight yarn while holding this yarn single, and you would have like a very good result. It's not an exact match for a mohair yarn. And meanwhile, Drops Hair is a blown yarn, so it's made out of tube and all of the fibers are blown into it. It's a very lightweight, very fluffy yarn. Most people will find this non-itchy, not all. Again, it depends how sensitive you are to alpaca. It depends if you are sensitive to really fluffy yarns. It depends on several things. For me, this is mostly non-itchy yarn. I can easily wear it next to my skin. I love knitting with it. For me, it also wears fairly well. It doesn't pill all that much. But one thing that you really need to be wary about, if you knit it at a looser gauge, it won't hold any warmth at all. So several years ago, when I was first discovering this yarn, I knit myself a sweater, and because I was used to way stiffer yarns, I didn't know how to work with a blown yarn. I knit this at a fairly loose gauge. I think it was like almost like 14 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the drape and everything was really, really nice, but it held just zero warmth. Like, I kept freezing in that sweater, even though normally if this yarn is knit up at the intended gauge, it's a really warm yarn. It can overheat you quite easily. But with that sweater, I just kept freezing in it, and that was really weird, and now I never wear that sweater. Opinions on this yarn will vary a lot, but if you have a sensitive skin and if you are looking for a nice fluffy yarn, I think this is a good option to check out. You can always just buy one ball, try a swatch, and then see how it works for you. I am having a migraine today, so sadly I won't get to edit the video today, but I thought, well, then at least I could knit up the other headband and make it like wider as I was planning to. And I have gotten this far. I am I'm already counting the rows and seeing if it's finished, and only now I realized that I misread my note, and I have made the new sample exactly the same width as the previous one, and now I need to frog all of this and start again, and let's just hope that this yarn is capable of frogging. I'm not sure. This is what happens when you do stuff when you have a migraine. Okay, the good news is that the yarn combo actually frogs very nicely. I think cotton helps it a lot. And I have started the new headband, and this time I checked that I have the correct number. Also, because I was feeling completely miserable and I needed something to take my mind off, I decided to knit myself a little cowl. I used the yarns that were left over from my raven sweater, so the cowl would be matching the sweater, and I would have like almost like a little collar situation. I knit this in a 2-color brioche. It's a fun thing to do. This little bit took me about 4 hours to knit, and it was fairly effective at keeping my mind off how miserable I'm feeling and that I had to cancel literally all of my plans for Saturday. I am so dead after the disc golf competition, but I'm also so happy with how it went. I came dead last. I lost 2 of my discs in the pond. I actually threw 3 discs of mine in the pond. I got 1 back. But still, I got a pretty damn good result for myself. I'm really, really happy with my first experience. Generally speaking, people were quite nice and supportive. I got to play one of the rounds together with Rogue, and then another one I played together with another girl that I didn't know, but like we just vibed and had so much fun. I was so happy with my outfit. It just worked. It was so cool. The cowl, that was bad. The cowl didn't. The only thing that didn't work was the cowl. Like, I know that I don't like wearing cowls. Why did I think that this time I will suddenly like it? It didn't work out for me. But I discovered that I actually really like wearing headbands. So as a reward for myself for having played my first disc golf competition, there was a local farmers market. It was like the Apple Festival. There were lots of fun things. I bought myself a new headband. I think it's very cute. I'm wearing it upside down currently, but it is in my colors. It has very, very cute foxes. I'm very happy. I think the raven sweater brought me a lot of luck. I'm very, very happy. It's also such a damn power move to go out to a disc golf competition and know that I've made all of my own outfit. And it is kind of cool to see that people are impressed by that. Also, I had a migraine flare-up while we were playing, except I didn't get pain. I got the vision glitches, so I started seeing auras, and there was like half of my vision almost missing. It was mildly creepy and did not help me play, but it went away soon enough. I managed. Very happy. Now I have to edit this video and it will come out not when I planned, and it will be mildly weird because now I'm like almost doing a vlog here. I don't know what I'm doing here. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending some cozy time together with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you being here and you supporting me. And if you would like to support me even further, if you would like to see more pattern reviews and more yarn reviews, I have a Buy Me Coffee account where you can either choose a one-time payment or like a subscription model. Just be aware that there is no extra content there, because I don't want any of my crafting tutorials or any like useful information to be behind the paywall. And I truly believe that the world would be a better place if everyone had a chance to learn how to knit or do any of the craft. But please don't feel bad if you can't afford that. I truly appreciate you being here, and you can just leave me a nice comment. It's always really fun and nice to read your comments. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.